All right. Well, we're going to hop back in here for our last session. So, no retreat, no guilt, no shame, no shrinking back, and no cowardice. Okay? So, we're going to come out of the apocalyptic literature. We did Old Testament, we did the epistles, now it's the apocalyptic stuff out of the book of Revelation. So, again, I was triggered by the songs and some of the old ones there. And you could pretty much sum up my dad's theology, who was a blacksmith. If he was given a chance to lead songs, he had 4 songs, and you could count on it. So, first song out, Amazing Grace, right? How sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. Song 2, Stepping in the Light. Right? Trying to walk in the steps of the Savior. Song 3, Leaning on the Everlasting Arms, right? And then 4, When the roll is called up yonder, I'll be there. That was pretty much his theology. And probably good theology there as we live out that in the songs. And I enjoyed that. It took me back a few years. So we have to be careful these days. I love the story about a stuttering Bible salesman. Would anybody be offended by that? Okay. So the story, I didn't see any hands. Help me out, Dan. Everybody's okay? So the story goes, this guy had a Bible selling operation, and he hired people to go out and sell the Bibles. And so a guy wanders in one day and he wants a job, but he stutters. And so the guy's like, partner, you know, this is a tough sales gig anyway. Are you sure you're going to be okay? And the guy's insistent. He can sell Bibles. So he goes, okay, we'll give it a try. Here's a case. Typically, it takes my better salesman a week to sell a case of Bibles. So this guy comes back at noon, and he wants another case. And the salesman goes, okay. So he gives him another case. The guy comes back at 5. He needs another case for tomorrow. And he goes, wait, you're the most successful Bible salesman I've got. He goes, tell me how you're doing it. I got to know. I got to train my other salesmen to sell like you do. And the guy goes, oh okay. He goes, I ring the doorbell. People come. I open a Bible and go, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And then I look up and say, would you like to buy a Bible, or shall I continue reading? So, we are going to get into it here, and a little background. So I had the opportunity to take the book of Revelation the last time Lewis Foster taught it at Cincinnati. So some of you may know some of that background. His father was the president at Cincinnati, R.C. Foster. And R.C. Foster's commentary on the book, or the Life of Christ, have you ever seen that? It's like this thick. I mean, this guy is a scholar. And he's 72 years old, and he's been studying it all of his life. Not only has he studied it all of his life, when they decided to do the New International Translation, they picked Foster as one of the translators. And I think he was elected as the chairman of the book of Revelation. So anyway, this guy is the best America has to offer. So they get into the translations, and they get to Revelation, and a disagreement arises about a word. One of the other translators, who he described as his friend, they'd become great friends, and they agreed on almost everything, was a guy by the name of William Hendrickson. And Hendrickson thought that this word should be translated conqueror. And in Romans 8, we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. They agreed. because in the context, Foster said the emphasis was on Jesus, all right? We are more than conquerors through him. But in the book of Revelation, they disagreed because Foster thought that the book of Revelation was written to the individual, or to the Christian, right? And the emphasis was on the Christian and this existence that we have in a fallen world. So he thought the word overcomer was the better word, all right? To him who overcomes. Hendrickson thought to him who conquers. Other translations, to the one who is victorious. Well, Foster wouldn't have liked that either because, again, it doesn't communicate the struggle that we have as Christians living in this fallen world, right? Let's be honest. It's a struggle, right? We struggle. Things don't go the way we want them to. There are challenges. There are obstacles. There are all kinds of things. And it is a struggle. So we need to overcome, to persevere, to endure, you know? I like the guy when they were talking about it. He said, if you got a good full suit of armor on, all you got to do is show up on the battlefield, right? Just show up. But overcome, persevere, endure. And so as we look at these 7 letters to the 7 churches, we're going to look at these promises and this concept of overcoming and talk about that a little bit. So we're going to run through the verses that cover the promises to the overcomer, and Jack's going to keep some track for us, okay? So there was a group called Three Crosses back in the day, and they wrote a song called I'm Going to Buy Sunglasses because the future looks so bright, okay? And so in the midst of the struggle where we're striving to overcome, to persevere, to endure, we need to hold out these promises that are laid out for us. So we're going to go through these verses. Jack's going to keep a tally here, and then he's going to read it back to us so we know why we need to buy sunglasses because our future looks so bright. So let's throw up those verses here. So here's the first one out of Revelations 2:7. Whoever has ears, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. To the one that overcomes, I'll give the right to eat of the tree of life, which is in the paradise of God. So we are just doing a full circle here, right? What God do in creation? What's some of the first stuff that we read about? The tree of life, right? There are those that say God created man simply for relationship. That's all he wants. He created a being like him, unlike the other creations, gave us free will so we could be like him, and the rest of human history is simply the story of God bringing back those people into relationship. And so here we are right off the bat. We're back around 360 degrees to the tree of life in the paradise of God. All right, next. Whoever has ears, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. He who overcomes will not be hurt by the second death. All right? So the person that overcomes, here's the promise, eternal life. You're not going to be hurt by the second death. All right, next passage. Whoever has ears, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. To the one that overcomes, I will give some of the hidden manna. I will also give that person a white stone with a new name on it, known only to the one who receives it. So here, this is a multiple thing, right? Hidden manna, white stone, new name. Wow. Okay. You keeping up, Jack? Yes, sir. All right, let's hit the next one. To the one who overcomes and does my will to the end, I will give authority over the nations. So, if you got this concept of heaven that you're just going to kick back on a cloud and play the harp for the rest of eternity, it's not going to happen. You're going to have responsibility. Think about the parables, right? The talents, all right? One guy's given 5. What happens in the end? He gets 5 more. He's given more responsibility, all right, according to our gifts. So, I think that's a glimpse into what's going to happen. We're going to be given responsibility here. How well we handle it is going to affect how much responsibility we're going to get in the next phase of whatever God's doing. And part of that's going to be authority. All right, good. Next. The one who overcomes will, like them, be dressed in white. I will never blot out the name of that person from the book of life, but will acknowledge that name before my Father and his angels. So in this glimpse, the books are opened, the book of life is opened, and your name's written there. And if we are overcomers, that will never be blotted out, and Jesus will acknowledge us before the Father. All right, good. The one who overcomes, I will make a pillar in the temple of my God. Never again will they leave it. I will write on them the name of my God, the name of the city of my God, the New Jerusalem, which is coming down out of heaven from my God, and I will also write on them my new name. Wow. There is not going to be any question about whose we are, right? We'll be able to tell. We'll be able to tell whose we are. Some of the guys and I were joking. I see hats, I see T-shirts, I see, pictures sometimes of ribbons. And, we can tell, whether you've been in this conflict or that service or another service or whatever. But I tell you what, when this is all over, people are going to know whose you are and who you belong to, that kind of thing. Great stuff. All right, next. The one who overcomes, I'll give the right to sit with me on my throne, just as I was victorious and sat down on my Father's throne. So again, this idea of authority, relationship, intimacy. All right, and then the last one. Okay, that was the last one. Sorry. So, to the person that overcomes all these promises, to the person that overcomes, who perseveres, who endures, who shows up on the battlefield and stands his ground, these are the promises. You ready, Jack? All right, I'm going to buy sunglasses because the future looks so bright. Tell us, Jack. No, you can get up. Is there a handheld anywhere? Sorry, I sprung that on Nick back there.
First promise, give the right to eat from the tree of life, which is in the paradise of God. Second, will not be hurt by the second death. Third promise, I will give some of the hidden manna, white stone, and a new name. The seventh, give authority over the nations. Be dressed in white, never blot out the name of us, will acknowledge us before God. Will make a pillar in the temple of God, and write on them the name of my God and the name of God, city. And the last, right to sit with me on my throne.
Thanks. Wow. What a great list. What a great glimpse that we have of what we are going to become if we overcome. But that's not the end of the story. There's a couple of more verses in Revelation, and they had 12 up there. Let's look at 12. They overcame him, speaking of Satan, by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. And they did not love their lives so much as to, here's this word again, shrink back from death. So the concept, we are overcomers. We're going to overcome Satan, and it's going to be by the blood of the Lamb and the word of the testimony. All right, let's move on here. Let's go to the end of the book, and this is Revelation 21. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, "Look, God's dwelling place is among the people, and he will dwell with them, and they will be his people, and God himself will be with them and be their God. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There'll be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the old order of things has passed away." He who was seated on the throne said, "I'm making everything new." Then he said, "Write this down, for the words of these words are trustworthy and true." He said to me, "It's done. I'm the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning, the end. To the thirsty I will give water without cost from the spring of the water of life. Those who..." Catching the theme here? "Those who overcome will inherit all this, and I will be their God, and they will be my children." All right. So, he starts the book, the letter, with the promises to those who overcome. In the middle of the book, he reaffirms this idea that we're going to overcome. The end of the book, what are we supposed to do? Overcome. Yeah. So, no retreat. No more guilt, no more shame, no more shrinking back. We are to be those that overcome, that persevere, that endure all of the struggles of this life. But I think this is the clincher. Can you throw it back up there? All right. Verse 8. "But the cowardly, the unbelieving, the vile, the murderers, the sexually immoral, those who practice magic arts, the idolaters, and all liars will be consigned to the fiery lake of burning sulfur." This is the second death. So do any of those jump out at you as being out of place in that list? So, here's what I think. You can be a liar. You can be an idolater. You can be an adulterer. You can be sexually immoral. You can be a witch or a warlock. You might even be a murderer. But God help you not to be what? A coward. How did that end up on that list? That is so out of place, right? With the rest of it? Wow. You got murderers, you got adulterers, sexually immoral, witches, warlocks, idolaters, liars. But the top of the list is the coward. So, no retreat, no guilt, no shame, no shrinking back, and God help us not to be cowards. All right. So, we're going to end. So, one more passage just to stand by. I don't think we talked about this, so there may not be a slide. But John 16:23. Jesus is always very honest and open with us. Here's Jesus' cut. "In this world you will have trouble." Stand by. Right? Embrace it. "In this world you will have trouble, but do not be afraid." Don't be anxious. What are some of the other words? Discouraged. Yeah. Why? I've overcome the world. And I'll help you do the same thing. You'll be overcomers. All right. So we're going to close with this story. World War II, in the years preceding World War II, a young man by the name of Mark Michener decided he wanted to be a sailor, wanted to go to the Naval Academy. And he received an appointment to the Naval Academy, but was kicked out his first year. Somehow, through political wranglings, his family got him reappointed. And this time he made it through and he graduated. Out of a graduating class of 113, Mark's ranking was 113. 113 out of 113. But Mark found his niche in naval aviation. He was a strong, quiet leader. He knew his pilots by name. He knew their wives by name. He knew their children by name. And some even say he knew their dogs by name. He was a people. He was a man's man. And he rose to the rank of admiral. So an opportunity popped up in the Philippine Sea in World War II. And Michener gathered up his leaders and the ship's leaders. The air contingent is embarked on the ship. So the leader of the air contingent is not the captain of the ship. Two different people. Captain is in charge of the ship. Air contingent guy is in charge of all air operations. But they got their heads together, and one of the scouts had found the Japanese fleet. And they thought they could launch an attack and surprise them and do some impressive damage. The problem was it was noon. So by the time they got ready, they launched, they made the attack, and they got back. There was a chance it would be dark. So the sailors out there know that, once it gets dark, we go to darken ship. No lights on the outside of the skin of the ship, because you can see a white light at sea for like 10 miles or more, and the enemy ships could see our fleet. So they talked about it, and they decided they were going to go for it. So they did. They launched everything they had. And they found the fleet, Japanese fleet, and they just bombed the snot. I mean, it was a tremendous victory. They headed back, but it got dark before they got back, and the pilots could not find the carrier. So Admiral Michener was listening to the chatter, and he could hear his young pilots go, "I'm running low on gas. Man, if I don't find a carrier soon, I'm going to be ditching in the ocean." Which, trying to find a pilot at night in the ocean, who knows where they are, is probably death for the pilot. And Michener knew that. As the desperation in the voices of his pilots grew, Michener went to the captain of the ship and he said, "Captain, turn on the lights." The captain responded, as you would expect, "Sir, with all due respect, we're at darkened ship. We are not turning on the lights. That would make us a target for any enemy ships or submarines or planes in the area. We're not doing it." To which Michener said, "Captain, turn on the lights." To which the captain, who is outranked by the admiral, says, "Sir, with all due respect, are you willing to take full responsibility for anything that happens if we turn on the lights?" And Michener said, "Yes, Captain, turn on the lights." The captain did. The planes were close, and they recovered. Every pilot, didn't lose a one, brought them all back alive. And I think, we have a lot in common with Michener. You see, there may be someone in your neighborhood struggling with alcoholism. Michener would say, "Turn on the lights. Help me out here, brothers." There may be a teenager contemplating suicide. Michener would say, "Christian." There may be a couple on the verge of divorce. Michener would say, there may be somebody fighting addiction. Michener would say, "Christian." There may be a parent at their wits' end. Michener would say, there may be someone in your neighborhood in the desperate need of salvation. Someone in the desperate need of the precious blood of Jesus Christ to take away the guilt and the shame. Someone who needs desperately the hope of the resurrection. Michener would say, Jesus would say, for God's sake, Christian. All right. May God bless you as you take up this challenge.